What's going on, y'all? Zach Hennison here, and I'm at one of my very favorite places in the whole entire world. This is Moores Lake in Ontario, Canada. And what I wanted to do, I figured I'd take advantage of the scenery and the opportunity to talk about something that I like to mention to just about everybody. We start working together in the context of personal training, but typically don't get too much of a chance to expound upon, and that is the importance of meditation. So just how in the same way that it's important to make your exercise and simply making your way to the gym a habit, a relatively regular or daily occurrence, same way for meditation and other forms of clearing your mind. It's just something to take into consideration for your mental health. And what I tend to find is that when people get just the least bit more stressed than what they're used to, or things get a little bit crazy, the first thing that gets cut for a lot of people is their exercise, going to the gym, and then it just kind of spirals down from there. So in a very real sense, creating a habit of meditation and just creating an inward sense of control and peace will ultimately help you stay more consistent with your gym going and your exercise. The very first thing that people tend to say when I mention meditating is they say that I can't. And in a very, well, literal sense, they usually, when you first start, that's true. When you sit down and you try to not think about anything, you really just can't do it. But just like everything else, it takes practice. The first time you try to do a perfect push-up or a pull-up or anything else like that, it's the trying and it's the sentiment that counts, not being able to actually do it just right on your first try. So just sitting and staring and trying not to think about anything, it's not the most fun thing in the world, I understand, but there are really two techniques that I find tend to help, especially when you're first starting, that will eventually start to help you bridge the gap between monkey mind that cannot quit going to just bring a little bit more peace and space in between the thoughts, which is ultimately what you're going for. So the very first thing is, what I call the thought bubble technique. So it's basically when you have a thought, which could be a combination of visual or sounds. So basically, in your mind, you're seeing and you're hearing something. Well, quite simply, putting that scene into a bubble and literally visualizing that bubble floating away. Now, what's probably going to happen is that's immediately going to be substituted with some other thought, some other visual, some other sound, and it's just important to wrap that up, imagine it's in a little bubble, and then float away. And then eventually, the only kind of thought you're going to have in your mind is just all these thought bubbles floating all around, and then you're going to wrap that up into a big bubble and just imagine it floating away. And you do that for long enough and consistently enough, and after a couple minutes you'll find that a couple seconds will pass before you have your next thought, and in which case you're finding the space in between your thinking. And that's really what the practice of meditation is all about, is being able to at least start cultivating some semblance of control over what's actually going on in your mind. So that is kind of the idea of trying not to think about anything, which is certainly one path of meditation. Some other kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum that some people tend to take to more is intense focus on one thing. And usually the best place that you want to start with there is simply focusing on the breath. Now, of course, I talk a lot about diaphragmatic breathing in the context of exercise and lifting weights, and of course trying to make diaphragmatic breathing an everyday 24/7 occurrence, right? So that you start to get better breathing habits. So in your meditation practice, that's oftentimes a good place to start with your focus, is simply focusing all of your mental energy into the inhalation and the sensation of air going in through your nose, down, filling your belly, and then of course on your exhalation. Now, of course, there's many different schools of thought on the timing and the tempo and this and that and the other thing, but don't get caught up in the details. Simply focus on your breathing, on your breath. Don't worry if you're doing it right, and simply keeping your focus and your intention on your breath in any capacity is good enough, especially when you're first starting. So really from there, then you can start focusing your intentions on something else besides your breath, whether that's a visual, something that you're looking at, or a particular problem or an issue in your life. The target is kind of up to you, if you will.
I want to go up around over that one.
Yep. So, meditation is simply sharpening the saw of your mind so that you can use it more effectively. And that goes right along with all the philosophies and the approaches that we take in the gym when it comes to growing stronger, losing weight, becoming healthier. We don't want to bang our heads up against a wall trying to do something and making it harder than what it needs to be, when we can simply take our time, sharpen the saw, make sure that our tools are more effective before we go on the job, so to speak. So, with that being said, enjoy the view, and we'll talk next time.